The average American gets more than half of their daily calories from a category of food that didn't have a name until 2009. It's not junk food, it's not fast food. Those terms let too much off the hook. It's called ultra processed food, and the more scientists study it, the more they find the same thing. More of it, more disease, more death. What they are, what they do, and why you can't find it on the label. Let's start with a definition, and because this term is more specific than it sounds. Ultra processed foods are not just foods with lots of ingredients. The definition comes from a research framework called NOVA, developed by a team of Brazilian public health researchers led by Dr. Carlos Monteiro at the University of Sao Paulo. NOVA doesn't classify food by nutrients, it classifies food by how much industrial processing it has undergone. There are four groups. Group 1, unprocessed or minimally processed foods, fresh fruits, vegetables, eggs, plain meat, nature's packaging. Group 2, processed culinary ingredients, things extracted from Group 1, olive oil, flour, sugar, butter, not meant to be eaten alone. Group 3, processed foods, made by combining Groups 1 and 2, canned beans, cheese, freshly baked bread, recognizable, traditional. Group 4, ultra-processed foods. This is where it gets alarming. Ultra-processed foods are industrial formulations. They're made primarily from substances extracted from foods, refined starches, hydrogenated fats, combined with additives that have no culinary equivalent. We're talking emulsifiers, artificial flavors, synthetic colors, and stabilizers. These aren't ingredients your grandmother would recognize. They exist solely to make an industrial product look and feel like real food. A rule of thumb, if the label contains things like carrageenan, polysorbate 80, or modified cornstarch, you're likely holding a UPF. Common UPFs: packaged chips, soft drinks, instant noodles, flavored yogurts, breakfast cereals, and most fast food items. For years, nutrition research focused on individual nutrients. That framing let a lot of harmful food off the hook. You could engineer a product to hit the right numbers while still being deeply problematic. The NOVA framework changed that. A landmark 2019 study found that every 10% increase in ultra-processed food consumption was associated with a 12% higher risk of cardiovascular disease. A separate 2021 analysis of nearly 6,000 Americans found that those with the highest UPF intake had a 50% higher risk of dying from cardiovascular causes. A 2022 study found that higher UPF consumption was associated with significantly elevated rates of depression and anxiety. The gut-brain axis appears to be disrupted by the additives and lack of fiber typical in ultra-processed diets. In 2019, the NIH conducted a rare controlled feeding trial, considered the gold standard in nutrition research. The results? When eating ultra-processed foods, participants consumed an average of 500 more calories per day, and they gained weight. The mechanism appears to involve how UPFs disrupt satiety signaling, your body's ability to know when it's full. Large-scale studies have found associations between high UPF intake and increased risk of colorectal cancer, breast cancer, and mortality. Perhaps the most sobering finding, a 2024 meta-analysis found that the highest UPF consumers had a 21% higher risk of dying from any cause. These are not fringe findings. The scientific consensus is hardening. And it's not good news for the ultra-processed food industry. Here's the problem. You can flip over any ultra-processed food in a supermarket. You'll see facts, but you won't see ultra-processed. Current labeling law was designed around the nutrient model. What's in food, not how it was made. That's out of step with science. Think back to the early 2000 seconds. Consumers started asking, are there GMOs in this food? After years of advocacy, the U.S. passed disclosure standards. The UPF labeling movement is making the same argument. They're pushing for NOVA classification, front-of-pack warnings, and restrictions. Chile led the way. In 2016, Chile introduced mandatory black warning labels. Studies show it changed purchasing behavior. Mexico and Peru followed. The food industry argues that the NOVA classification is too blunt, that it groups a protein shake and a bag of chips in the same category. Some researchers agree the NOVA system has limitations. A plain protein powder technically falls into group 4, so does some infant formula. But the question isn't whether Nova is a perfect system, it's whether the current system, no classification at all, serves public health. So, what do you do? First, don't panic and don't aim for perfection. The research looks at patterns over time, not a single bag of chips. Use the kitchen test. Ask yourself, could you make this at home from recognizable ingredients? If the answer is no, it's likely ultra processed. Shop the perimeter. Most whole and minimally processed foods live on the edges of the supermarket. The center is where UPFs concentrate. Focus on adding more whole foods, more vegetables, more legumes. Crowd out the ultra processed items rather than eliminating them cold turkey. And advocate, support labeling initiatives. Your food label should tell you what you're actually eating. Right now, it doesn't. That's worth changing. We've spent decades counting calories, but the evidence suggests we've been missing something bigger, understanding how food is made.